Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to my deep guide, and in today's video we are finally checking out Dasung, I believe it's called Paperlike 13K, and this is a monochromatic version. It comes in many different versions. The one that we have here is monochromatic with a front light, no touch here. Regular viewers of my deep guide would then say like, but wait a minute, this whole thing looks the same. What's new? What's different? Well, the clue is in the name 13K. While 13 is for its 13.3-inch format, the K part is for the resolution, because this 13.3-inch Dasung monitor sports a 300 ppi resolution. When you check it out, it will say, hey, Paperlike 13K for Mac. Right out of the get-go, I am not a Mac user, so I will not be able to bring you a demonstration of how this monitor works on a Mac, but it's supposed to work exactly in the same way on a Macintosh as it does on a Windows this time. That's the whole point of this device. When you have a monitor, what do you expect to be able to do with it? For me personally, it is the expectation to be effortlessly able to hook it up to a source device, be it a computer, tablet, or something else, and then immediately start using it. This is something that is completely impossible to do with this monitor, because unless you have the Paperlike client app installed, including the driver as well, this monitor will not work at all. Should you choose to be completely fine with that, the second part comes with, I need to download the Paperlike client. Where do I find it? That situation is slightly better than it was a year ago, but it's still not that good, because while you can find it if you have keen eyes and if you carefully, really carefully read throughout the wall of text on their webpage, you will be able to find eventually a line where it says you can download the client here. However, that line is not made to stand out in any special way, so the likelihood of you actually overlooking it and missing it is extremely high. But let's say that you are fine with this point number 2 as well, because you've watched this video and now you're like, okay, cool, I know where to download it, let's download it. And then you are presented with two very distinct problems. Problem number 1 is that the download speed of this 13.38 megabyte file is limited to 400 kilobits per second, which amounts to up to maximum 50 kilobytes per second. So the download of this 33.8 megabyte file will take roughly around 15 minutes. So let's say you're fine with point number 3 and that you're okay to download a really shoddy looking file that's named Paperlike client (1) because that's basically an indication that whoever was putting this up downloaded the same file twice and simply uploaded the second iteration or the second copy of the downloaded file. Really professional. But after 15 minutes of waiting time, if you have any kind of a decent internet security protection in place on your computer, you will not be able to use this file, because both the file itself and the website behavior upon completion of the file will be filed as dangerous, and it will be blocked and treated as malicious. If you are able to actually get the file onto your computer somehow past all of your defenses, and you scan that exe file, it itself scans cleanly, but everything around it is so shady and shoddy that no system with good security practices in place will allow you to do something as horrific as this implementation is. And let's rewind back to the very beginning. This is what you need to do in order to actually even begin using this screen. What a shit show. Even when I disabled all of my internet security defenses temporarily, it would not allow me to do this because it was simply too shoddy and too insecure to proceed. So what I instead did, I went on my phone, disabled security measures there, isolated my phone so that in case that actually it is a malicious type of a thing, then downloaded it, and it managed to download it, and then I was able to scan it and transfer it over to my computer and then finally start the testing procedure. This is all of it. Completely inexcusable and unacceptable. But once you've managed to go through the saga and adventure of actually downloading the client and the driver that is necessary for the operation of the Paperlike 13K, well, then you may actually go into the mode of saying, this might have been worth it, because this monitor delivers something quite different. Let's start with the design and build quality. And we have a pretty much identical chassis that we've had with the previous Paperlike 13-inch series from before. So we have the aluminum alloy chassis here, which is nicely milled. It's of an okay build quality. The edges are now better than they were before. It is incredibly thin all the way up here, and it actually kind of bevels nicely here. So it's a really pretty object to hold in your hand. It feels modern, it feels sleek, and it feels well made. All of the edges are very nicely rounded, and as a result, this is a comfortable device to use in your hands. We have a completely flush screen with the surface, so no indentations. On the left hand side we have the control buttons here with the power, brightness, plus minus for brightness, plus minus for modes, and contrast as well. And C is for clearing the screen or deghosting the screen, or the full screen refresh, if you will. At the bottom of the front we have a nice gray kind of a colored chin, which looks pretty. At the bottom all the way here we have two rubber feet for anti-slipping, which is nice. On the back we have a sticker for magnetic area, which is to be used for sticking with the VESA mount adapters that you get with this monitor, or with the flipbook cover that you get. And we have this hole here, which is to screw in the leg that only has one fixed position, and it just gives you kind of like an angle like this one. If you're interested to see how that works, you can check my previous review of this one, or check the images on their website, because it just shows it exactly what that is. On the left hand side we have the inputs. So we have the USB-C input. Unfortunately it is for signal only. So this device, despite it actually not consuming ever enough to warrant the use of an external power supply, as we will cover in the power requirements chapter, it is not able to be powered via the USB-C port alone. Then we have the mini HDMI here, for which thankfully the cable is provided, which is mini HDMI to regular HDMI, and this is the status LED here. On the right hand side we have the 3.5mm audio, which has a plug in it. Single speaker in this case, no stereo here. Overall it's a very nice looking device, and as a portable solution it would have been a perfect one were it not for this obvious problem there. Its portable woes are not limited to just the power supply, although certainly that's the biggest problem. The second problem is this. This ugly thing is the... I can't even begin to describe to you how unpleasant of a tactile feeling this is. Look at it. I haven't used it. This is just like open. It was sitting in normal places. The color is of, it's a toilet-like color. When you attempt to attach it, to the magnetic area here, you can, but it works like this, right? So there you go. This is your setup. There you go. The magnetic orientations are such that nothing locks in place. You can't just put it there. You have to place it, and then you have to center it, and then when you put it in, then it's like this. The good thing about it is that it does serve a purpose of a function, so it will keep the device kind of in there, and you do have these indentations, so it can double as a stand as well, and it can provide a transportation for the screen. My previous experience with this type of covers, particularly from Dasung, was when I used it in a single session outdoors. This front here would basically deform. The plastic inside would get warmed up by the sunshine, and it would deform and it would remain permanently bent and deformed. This feels exactly the same as that previous cover that suffered from those issues, and I have no reason to believe that this one won't suffer from the same problems. Ugh. I know some of you may think that I'm kind of joking or something, but genuinely the tactile feel of that thing is gross. Maybe it's just me, but I've never had that experience before other than with Dasung's covers. I don't know what type of material it is, but it is an unnerving experience, to say the least. All right, so when you finally got the app installed and it appears on your desktop like this, you can launch it, and well, yeah, I've already launched it, so that's why it's saying, yeah, that message did it, but it will be in your tray. Yes, we finally have the app, and I'm going to be using the USB-C. Unfortunately, it has to be connected to the power source. You hook it up to the computer, and then you wait a little bit, then you wait some more, and then there we go, you get the click, and then the image finally appears. So the very first thing is you need to optimize your computer so that it actually works well with an e-ink display. And on a Windows, in this case 10 Pro, you go to display settings and then you go high contrast in the search bar, and let's go to change high contrast theme. Right? And now we can turn on high contrast. And once it's changed, you can choose between several of them. You choose the one high contrast white. Then we get to mouse pointers. You switch to the inverted option here, and we can increase the size to something that we like. And for me, for example, 3 size on this one is still a bit too big, so let's go down to 2. The next thing that we gotta do is we gotta adjust the resolution. So again, right click, display settings. This time we have this. And if you want to duplicate the display, you can duplicate the display. If you want to extend the display onto it and use it as a secondary display, you can do that as well. But the important part is that we need to change the resolution to get the best out of the 300 ppi that this guy has to offer, and to get the proper aspect ratio. And it automatically switched to 250% of DPI scaling, or you can make it even bigger if that's something that you prefer. For me, I think that the resolution of the screen and the quality of screen initially looks like it's more than enough to actually comfortably work with 250 scaling. Just to be sure, I'm gonna check that I don't have the night mode on. Let's see. Night light, turn off now. So that's what it was actually bugging it. All right, so let's now try again and see what the contrast is saying. There we go. So now contrast is starting to work as expected. Turning off the night light would be one of the crucial steps as well. Let's now go to default setting, their contrast of 4 for the text, and let's see what we have here. Yeah, I think that this works really nice, but as soon as you have some graphics, this is way too aggressive. And just for the colors alone and the differentiation of colors, I would return to 2. I can differentiate somewhat between different colors. So let's see when we switch this to full screen. Yeah, you can differentiate a tiny bit, but you know, it's a monochromatic screen, so there's only so much you can do. Checking out data tables, sheets, even chart values is all very nice and clean. And I'm very impressed at the speed and smoothness. The most impressive thing here is the smoothness of updating, and yeah, just how clean everything is for an e-ink display. So yeah, text mode for text is really, really good. I've switched to the web mode, or mode 1, where the default contrast setting is set to 2, and I've done a fresh clean ghost operation to see how a combined text and images content will be. And for me, this is perfectly readable. I don't have any problems with reading this. The responsiveness is very nice, and unlike before, I feel free. I'm not reluctant to make adjustments like sliding, scaling, or anything like that, because previously any sort of adjustment of that type would leave ghosting images and residues that would just turn everything into a mess. But this is actually not the case here, especially when we're talking about the text. It is handling text beautifully, and the text pops from the page in a very nice way. And for reading, this is by far the best Dasung e-ink screen that I have tested so far. 300 ppi on this panel, and the refresh rate that we have here makes a gigantic difference. And I can test to a really, really high image quality on this screen. For completeness sake, let's now go through contrast modes in the web mode. So this is contrast level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. What I actually like about it is that you don't get thicker fonts, you just get them more contrasty. So here we are on Disney, and it has mixed type of content, but predominantly it is going to be darker. This is all perfectly legible and very, very visible. I mean, even this, which is really, really dark, super, super dark, yeah, you can just see it quite nicely. So despite it being a black and white screen, in web mode, you don't have to be selective. It actually is able to handle today's modern content that you're going to be normally encountering in a pretty okay way. Next, we're checking the image mode while we're on this same page, and image mode also has all 9 levels of contrast. It defaults to 4, but for my taste, that is way too dark and way too aggressive. You can see here how it just kind of leaves traces around whenever something is moving all over the screen. You can even see like the moving cursor leaving traces down here. So that just creates a very, very messy type of experience. For me, level 2 strikes a nice balance of all this. And while the rendering of images is better in image mode, so you do get a little bit more clarity, the point that I find, first of all, unpleasant is that kind of refreshing that you can see the residues all around the cursor and all around the moving images. Because if I leave it like this and we wait for the banner now to start moving, you can see how much of a messiness there is, and then it cleans up and offers a really, really nice image. But it's more striking in continuously moving images here, as you can see all of this kind of artifacting going on. And why do I find this concerning? Well, because I know that even though this is super impressive, let's not forget that e-ink panels have a finite number of cycles of updating, how many times each ink cell can go up and down. And granted, those do count in millions, and for regular e-ink type of use, that is not a problem at all. You're gonna use your device well over 10 years until you start to see any kind of degradation. But when we have something like this, we have unequal portions of screen being updated at 37 frames per second, those millions are gonna become uncomfortably low number fairly quickly. I would not be able to escape the fact that smoothness costs a lot, and it's gonna spend this very, very expensive screen much more quickly than it would if I were to use it as a regular e-ink screen, for example. For completeness sake, let's see all of the contrast levels in image mode as well. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So pretty much 3 usable levels that you have for the image mode. And finally, we have the active mode, which is supposed to be the quickest one. And here we're all again defaulting to 4, which I think is way too much. Let's just go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, again, the same story. I think 1 is the nicest image quality, but it's fairly pale. So here in the active mode, I think we're going to be switching between 2 or 3, whatever it is that you prefer. But for me, 2 is okay for active mode. But you can see in the text here, in the text quality, that it is starting to degrade that resolution. Here we have a full motion video thing. Let's do a clean screen refresh. And this is truly impressive, like really, really impressive that you can now genuinely watch a video in nice, smooth motion in a clean and clear way on an e-ink panel. Part of me is completely amazed at the fact that you are able to do this and it's looking really, really pretty. Okay, we get some image quality issues and deghosting. So in here, I would need to kind of have it refresh after an X amount of seconds for that type of use case scenario. This is very, very impressive to have 300 ppi and this level of clarity. It's really pretty. The other side of me is, because of the before mentioned fact that this is actively spending the screen so much more quickly than it should, is horrified because yeah. So let's say if I go auto clear ghost every 5 seconds and I go okay. Let's see what happens with cleaning things. There we go. So that's what that looks like. So if you really wanted to, you genuinely could use this screen for watching videos, but I think that's not what the purpose of this screen is. What this does allow you is to use it for video conferencing, telecalls, and all of that kind of stuff without any problems. And that is a really, really cool thing to see. So now it's refreshing, even though I gave it 5 seconds, I think it's refreshing every 30 seconds because that's like the minimum value that it has. So it can be 30 seconds or more. Just for reference sake, we have a color wheel here just to see how the colors are represented in different display modes. So this is active mode. So now let's go up to image mode. Then we got text mode with higher contrast. And then we got web mode. I think that the web mode would be a very, very nice kind of compromise for most situations. If I was to use this screen on a daily basis for my needs, I think that this would be in web mode. I don't see any problems here, and I don't get that strange refreshing, and I don't get the really bad speed of refresh here either. Like, I just don't get the bad stuff that I do get from the image mode. I think that the web mode is your best bet at contrast level 2. It's like a really versatile solution that would cover easily most of the situations that you may find yourself in when using a screen of this type. Now you'll notice that throughout all of these examples, I have been having the front light turned off, and that is simply because the screen is really, really good. Outdoors now is cloudy. It's not super duper dark cloudy, but it is completely clouded type of a day. And I do not need any kind of additional front light here. It's perfectly legible and absolutely perfectly usable in these conditions. However, you do have a mix of warm light, then you have the cold light. Those are the presets, right? So you can have fully cold, fully warm, and a mixed light, which is somewhere between. And the intensity levels, they were, yeah, it just goes really, really high. So let's go and see how does the range of the warm light looks like. So we got none, and then you start adding it. Then as you add it, it starts to basically glow. This is the range of the cold light. And I think that it's fairly uniform. There's some shading down here and some shading up there. Everywhere around from the edges and in the middle of the screen, it's really, really nicely uniform. Let's see the uniformity of the warm light. That can also be tricky sometimes. Yeah, we get the same type of fading here and non-uniformity up and down. Not so much to the sides, but also... And this is the mixed light. And let's see how it kind of mixes both of the lights. You have a very nice range, quite a lot of sensitivity, so you can actually tweak it exactly to your liking. Let's test it out in darker conditions. Okay, I have adjusted the camera settings to be as close as possible to what I can see in these lighting conditions right now. And we are in mixed mode, and I'm just gonna start adding the intensity of the front light. I think that I would be using it somewhere around here, and that this would be more than plenty to comfortably use it in a dark room. Very, very minimal levels of front light are required to offer a really nice reading type of an experience. There's nothing wrong with this. On the contrary, this is really pleasant and easy to use. That's one of the most important aspects so far that I've had with this monitor, is that every time before that I've used an e-ink screen, I would not describe the experience of using an e-ink screen in an existing ecosystem and platform as easy. This one, if you do the initial setup, there's nothing hard about this. This is an effortless type of an experience in any kind of lighting conditions that I've so far used. So this is really, really cool. Let's see how far does it actually go. And yeah, that's, I don't understand why would you need more than this level. There's absolutely no need in any kind of conditions, because remember, you're going to be using the front light only in dark conditions. And we're now in dark conditions, and there's no need to go to these levels. This is simply like just blasting like crazy, and there's absolutely no need for anything like that. Cold light, that's not something I'm interested, but I am interested in the warm light. Warm light, I'm having a bit of an issue with. The tint is quite a bit green. It could have been a better kind of amber signature, color signature here. So here's something that I noticed with the warm light. When it's at 100% intensity, then it's a nice type of an amber color. But as I start lowering it down, then it starts to kind of creep in with that greenish tint, especially at lower intensities. But, so this is like the mid intensity here, it's kind of greenish. But as you start getting to the lower intensity levels here, then sort of it goes back more to an amberish or a true amber type of a light. So it's not green tinted throughout the whole intensity range. It's basically just around here in this range here that it's a little bit too green for my taste, but in the lower range it's good, and in the super high range it's good, but the super high range doesn't really matter because it's just too glowy. For my preference, I think that I would be using as a mixed light at a very low level, somewhere around here. And this would be basically my preference, how I would like to use a screen like this in suboptimal or dark conditions. But the important part here is that, you can use this screen in any conditions that you want. It doesn't matter. Indoors, outdoors, day, night, dark, light. Yeah, it just works. Let's see, I genuinely haven't checked this out before, so we're gonna check it out together at the same time. So we have hotkey settings to clean Ghost. So you can use Alt-R to clean the ghosts. Well, yeah, that's interfering with something else. Image mode switch, tune contrast down, tune contrast up. OS GUI settings. Okay, so that's basically the contrast settings. They would need to add also the option to make sure that the night mode is turned off. So these are basically shortcuts to their recommended settings that you don't have to change it on your own. Then we have the option of reduce blue. Please configure Paperlike as extended. Well, I'm not gonna use it as an extended display. There's lack of attention to details here because there's like no space between parentheses. Configure Paperlike as extended what? So how is an average user supposed to understand what are you supposed to do here? And then you have turn on, low, high for reducing the blue light. I'm not going to do that. What's the question mark? People would get eye fatigue uncomfortable, which is caused by the blue light from LCD that also will affect our sleep quality. That is a very strange sentence. The general blue light filter, night shift, and eye protection mode will affect the performance of Paperlike monitor, but excitedly, we have the performance in the Paperlike what? Will affect the performance of Paperlike monitor, but excitedly we have the performance in the Paperlike monitor. What? It can weaken the blue light from the LED and guarantee functions of Paperlike monitor. Question mark indeed. I really don't know. And there is no excuse in today's day and age with ChatGPTs and so many other LLM models to have this kind of a translation. This is simply laziness and nothing else. There's nothing else behind this other than laziness. Look, I'm tech savvy and I can figure out some of the stuff here. Long distance move maybe enables trailing. Control is probably gonna show you where the cursor is. And image enhancement is probably more contrast popping. But this is completely kind of like trash level. Here's the exciting part, scenes. So you can actually create your own scene, and let's say that I wanted a default scene, and I'm gonna be using and they don't give me a web mode to use. So that's crap. Refresh is black, contrast level of 2, and then a hotkey for that one, and then you can add it, and then automatic start. So in theory it's nice, but where's the web mode? Yeah, you got the settings there. It is in line with the entire client download, absolutely inexcusable type of an experience. That unfortunately continues on. Thankfully, the main panel that you're going to be interacting with, the settings panel, is clear enough, easy enough to use, and it functions. That is the most important aspect here, because that makes that screen very usable, and it makes the interaction very nice and easy to use. Would it have been better that you had an option to create your own default option that uses web mode and is auto start, and that you understand what all of these things are? Yes, it certainly would have been. And while I maintain, as I said, it is inexcusable, it doesn't make it unusable. And that's the important part. This is totally usable. It's just not a nice experience to use it. But thankfully, that's not the case with using this screen, because there's nothing wrong with usability of this screen, of the quality of this image, of the performance of this screen, and of the cleanliness of the image of the screen. This is easily the best 13.3-inch e-ink display experience that I have had so far. And I know that some people are going to be interested in, for coding purposes, and this, if you are not depending on colors in your coding, there's absolutely zero issues that I can see with using this for coding. The combination of the image clarity, the 300 ppi, that is absolutely gorgeous on this display, in combination with the cleanliness and smoothness, this is the very first time that I would genuinely be able to use this screen for coding. Like, no problems whatsoever, especially if you're not relying on colors for classes and all of that kind of stuff. And I can just get it even quite small to fit wider lines here without any problem, and the readability is perfect. This is really impressive to see how much you can squeeze out from a portable 13.3-inch screen, and then you get to the point that it is portable, it is 13.3-inch, and you could use it outdoors or anywhere you want. Can you? Because of this thing. So let's get on to that one. I have the power consumption meter here. I'm gonna let it play a video here. So we got lots of pixels moving, and I'm gonna be making sure that we're in web mode with contrast level 2. So currently we have 7 watts of power consumption for regular type of use here. And now let's turn on the mixed light. So that means both color arrays for the front light are on, and let's pump it up all the way to the maximum. And now we have 9 watts at peaks of consumption. Let's give it even volume. maximum volume, 9 watts. So even at absolute maximums that I can give it, let's see if it changes if we go full screen. Nope, it's still at 9 watts. And that is well within what the 15 watt USB-C cable is capable of delivering, because every single bog standard USB-C connection here that delivers data is able to deliver up to 15 watts of power. But this one actually requests 0 power. As you can clearly see, we got my meter here requesting 0 amps, therefore requesting and spending absolutely 0 watts. No power delivery requested from the USB-C, and that makes this portable screen, which is designed to be used anywhere where you want, and it is already in a portable format, not portable because it requires AC. Why? Why? All right, so final thoughts about the Dasung Paperlike 13K. Well, in this case, I can only comment on this particular model, but any of the Mac labeled models will require you to use that Paperlike client in order to be able to use this screen, and that is a terrible first impression and first type of an experience. I do not understand for the life of me why is it so difficult for Dasung to do things normally. The translations are not normal in 2025 to be in a state that they are. The state of the app, the user interface, the user experience, all of that is not normal. Where that file is, how dodgy it is, none of it is normal, nor should be deemed acceptable by anyone. Especially not when you're paying really good money, granted for a good product, but what good is it, a good product, no matter how good it may be, if the first gate is as horrible and shoddy as that experience is? Dasung, get your act together and do things properly. This is completely ridiculous. Aside from that terrible download software experience, everything else about usability of this screen is so effortless and so good, crisp and easy and nice to use that this is genuinely the very first time that I have experienced a e-ink screen that can be used as a monitor in regular type of scenarios of any kind. The only thing that it requires of you is to use a light theme, and if you want the best results, then use a high contrast theme as well, and make sure that the night mode is off. So those 3 things. If you can live with those things, and if that actually accommodates and slots into your workflow nicely, then you're going to have a really, really good experience. The only truly negative thing that for me brings this product down as a design itself is the requirement of the external power supply that has to go into AC. That to me is a real problem, because everything about this device screams portability, and it just begs to be completely portable and invites you to use it everywhere, to expand your horizons, where you can work and where you can conference and where you can do all of these things. But you can't, because it cannot be powered by a USB-C cable, and that makes no sense whatsoever. Because in all honesty, if that was not the case and you could just run it with a single USB-C cable for data and power delivery, and that the software download experience was normal and not completely ridiculous as it is right now, this would be a really easy positive recommendation to make. However, the power delivery does bring down the usability of this otherwise excellent product. So that's the Dasung Paperlike 13K. I'm interested to hear what are your thoughts, what are your opinions, and what do you think about the power supply thingy? Is that a deal breaker for you or not? Am I being unreasonable in my expectations or not? Also, do ask away any other questions that you may have for this display. I hope that you liked the video. If you did, please like, ding the notification bell in the description below. Subscribe if you're not subscribed, because there's still quite a lot of people who watch my videos that are not subscribed. That helps the channel a lot. The channel needs help. It's getting better a bit with the attention and activities, but it still needs maintained traction and action from you guys so that we can actually bring it back up, so that the algorithm stops burying it down completely ridiculously in search results, recommendations, and even subscription notifications absurdly. And also, if you want to help the channel, please do share the videos, recommend them, repost them, and all that kind of good stuff. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye!